My name is Kathleen Chiavetta. I am 32 years old today. Because today is August the 4th. It's 2008. We are in Buffalo, New York, and I will be interviewing my dad.
My name is Peter Chiavetta. My age is 56. Today's date is August 4th, 2008. We are in Buffalo, New York. My relationship, this is my daughter, my oldest.
Your first and therefore most beloved daughter. Okay, my first question for you is, what was the happiest moment of your life?
Oh, my firstborn.
For real, please?
No, honest to God, for real.
All you hear that, siblings?
I all of a sudden knew I had a responsibility other than myself, and then there's just the beauty of the birth.
Except that you thought I was going to be a boy.
Yes.
Because I was so big.
8,
and I turned
6.
out something like that. And you had to try a couple times before you finally got your boy.
Yes.
Okay, what was the saddest moment of your life?
Oh, divorce day and telling you kids. That was the worst. That worst time in my life. I wish if there was a clock to turn back, I would turn that back.
I remember.
I remember so many broken hearts all at once. It was unbearable.
You know, when I told Ma that we were going to be coming to do Story Core, she said, she looked really panicked because I was with her at the time, and she said, "Just make sure you don't talk about me." And I remember thinking, why are we going to talk about Ma? It's Dad and I. But I wondered if you would bring that up.
Oh, no.
What is your scariest memory?
Oh.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot to choose from.
Oh, no. This scariest. It was the time we were on 249, and the master bedroom was at the top of the stairs. And the nightlight on the bottom of the stairs, and I'm looking up at the ceiling, sleeping at night, and I see the shadow growing on the ceiling. I'm thinking there's an intruder in the house, filled with fright, but at the same time knowing that I had to protect my family, something I never knew that was even in me. And I yelled to your mom and said, "Call the police," and I jumped. Well, it was you coming up from downstairs from the bathroom, and you were the shadow projecting on the ceiling. So I went over the top of you and tumbled down the stairs.
I don't remember that.
Well, you were just a little...
Thank God
kid.
you didn't have the 22 then.
No. Well, there wasn't even enough time. I had to sacrifice. I figured I have to sacrifice myself and give your mother enough time to call the police. That was the scariest.
How dramatic.
But instinctive. It's something about being a parent. There's things in you don't even know that are there until they're tested.
You know, it's funny you say that because I have a memory from that same house, and we were only in that house a couple years, and it had to do with there was a toy ambulance driving from my room to your and Ma's room, but it was like real, except it was miniature and the lights were flashing, and so something was horribly wrong. And then I went to the top of the stairs and stood there and looked down and jumped and flew down to the bottom of the stairs. But you didn't knock me down the stairs, did you, when you jumped over the top of me?
No. It wasn't, you were safe.
But isn't that strange? That was a weird house. I liked it, though. We had our own playroom.
Yeah.
We used to have our playroom in the big downstairs bedroom, and then you kicked us out of that and made it your office, and you shoved us in a closet off the living room.
No.
Yeah, it's a playroom.
The small playroom I made into the office, and you guys got the larger room.
I don't remember which one happened first.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm pretty sure we got kicked out of that room because I remember thinking why you needed such a big office was beyond me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Who is the most important person in your life, and can you tell me about him or her?
No. Most important person.
Or how about the biggest influence?
I have felt alone all my life. I've depended on myself and my relationship and God. Honest.
You know, I wondered what you would answer to that question because I couldn't think of anything.
Yes.
I tried to think of how you would respond to these questions, and I didn't think of anybody.
Yeah, there's parts of my life or parts of me during the day are very lonely because I am, how do I say, I depend so much on myself.
I know that you do.
It's very hard for me to ask for help.
I've noticed, which is why you can't take a day off and still be in Erie County at the same time ever in your life. Okay, well, what about who has been the kindest to you in your life?
The kindest to me in my life.
Has anybody been kind to you, Dad?
Well, I have to back up now because my role has changed with my mother. I've totally forgot about influence in my life. My mother has. The roles have changed because now she's dependent on me. And so the kindness has been my mother, yes. And probably the most influential has been my mother. But because those roles in the last 4 years specifically have reversed and she's dependent on me now, I totally overlooked that. Yeah.
I know. I wish we had done this earlier to bring her with us.
Oh, yes.
I think that she has so many stories to tell. And
She's had a very deep wisdom about life, and nothing surprises her. I have to remind her comment about life, about people's behavior has been going on for 2,000 years. That's what she would always tell me.
Yeah.
This has been going on for 2,000 years. Why should anybody be surprised? Yeah.
Okay, what are some of the most important lessons you've learned in life?
Things have been going on for 2,000 years. Don't take them so serious. Nothing I can do about it.
Relax.
Yeah, I know. Don't stampede the herd. Yeah, and try not to frighten other people. Even though I probably frightened the heck out of you kids as you were growing up about
That we were going to die.
tornadoes and fires in houses.
I still get anxious during thunderstorms that the house is going to hit by lightning and it's going to burn down.
What was your question again on that? Because you know us, we'll get off on a tangent.
Important lessons you've learned in life.
Yes. Try very hard to learn from other people's lessons. During that divorce period, when I swear it was a moment of insanity that caused all that, and I wish I could have skipped over being insane and doing what I did. For some reason, I didn't pick up on somebody else's lesson on that. I've learned from so many other people's lessons on what not to do in life, and that one I didn't do. I followed their course. Now I understand how people do insane things because they do enter that moment of insanity and can't find their way out.
Because they're stampeding the herd.
Yeah, just everything falls apart. But other lessons, definitely. There's always a reason for somebody's behavior. We learned that with Uncle Paul and his brain cancer. And
when he started to do really strange things.
And memory losses, not being able to fulfill or complete an act. Yeah, always a reason why. Forgiveness, that it's a process, and it's very capable of doing of completing forgiveness because it is a process. And to love everyone.
I know I've never heard you talk about hating people or that there's really people that you can't stand, and I've seen you get really mad and ticked off, but I can't really think of anybody that you've ever said you really hated.
Even Joey, when I say I don't want to talk to him ever again, I know I will. I know I'll shake his hand
know
when
you
I see
will.
him. Yeah.
When he calls next year to borrow money or something. Yeah, right. You talk tough.
Yeah, I know.
So, the question says, did you get into trouble when you were a kid? And I'm sure that you did.
Mischief.
But what was the worst thing you did?
Not the worst thing I did. Worst. Let me see. Worst thing would be somebody got hurt as a kid, and no one ever got hurt. So the worst mischief.
All just boyhood.
Yeah, it's just, friends of mine and I were drinking, and they got so drunk. We were only probably like 14, and they got so drunk, and I got mad at them. I can't remember the reason why, and I left them, but I didn't know where to go. I couldn't go back home because that would raise suspicion. Why am I home? And they're camping in the cabin on our property, and they're still back there. So I figured the one place to go where I couldn't get hurt, I'd go to sleep in Gary's field car. So I slept there. And I got up in the morning, and one of the guys had a 1-pound Maxwell House coffee can on the back of his neck for a pillow, and his mouth was full of vomit. Another guy, I won't mention names, had shit himself in his sleeping bag. That's how drunk they were. So that's like the worst mischief we've ever been in, where somebody could have got hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the vomit kid.
Yeah,
He could have
someone could have
choked
got
to
hurt.
death. So you were camping in the cabin on Hardpan.
No. There was a cabin on the end of Nanny's property that we had built as kids,
Oh, like toward the back.
right on the back edge.
Is it true, Aunt Kathy told me you used to be able to see Lake Erie out Nani's kitchen window? Is that true?
You can still see.
You can't. There's all trees out there. Have you ever looked out the kitchen window?
Well, that's true. That's
It's
true.
all forest.
That's true, though. There was a field at the end of Nani's, another piece of property at the end of Nani's field. And those hills back there were bare. You know, where you and Beth went walking. Yeah. Those were all barren, too. Yeah, so probably. Yeah, you probably have to go upstairs now to see the Lake Erie.
I still don't think you can see it. But I'll take your word for that. Okay, what is your best memory of childhood?
Childhood. Best memory of childhood. Gary Moscato being my best friend through childhood. If we had a fight, and it happened often, and I would this one specific one was probably a fall day. I was dressed heavily, and I would sleep. There was a concrete steps that faced to the south out of Nanny's house, and I was sleeping on them. I might have been only about 7, 8 years old.
Why were you sleeping on the steps outside?
It was out in the sun. You know how seductive that could be and relax you. The sun's hitting you. It's cold on your face. You're dressed warm enough, dark clothes heating me up.
Right.
And he would come over with a banana to make up. And he came over with a banana that day when we shared a banana.
Oh, that's so precious.
Yeah.
I wonder what you thought about.
Oh, who knows? Nothing, probably.
Maybe when you rubber banded him to the back of your bike, he fell off.
Well, I was seatbelt minded, you know. Just because the seatbelt or the rubber bands dragged him for a little bit before I stopped.
Always concerned about safety.
Yeah.
How would you describe a perfect day when you were young?
I've thought of some other bad things I've done too as a child.
They're all coming back to you now.
Yeah. There's one, Larry and Jerry Rodriguez, the twins. And
Larry and
so
Jerry.
this one relation to Roseanne Turner would come up in the summertime, and she didn't know there was twins. So we got her to believe there was a cabin in Nanny's house right there between where the red garage is now in the house. There was a cabin there, right where that burn pile is, and there was hay in there for some reason. And between the twins, we maneuvered them so that she would see him at one time and not the other. And we got her to believe that she killed one with a pitchfork. That's horrible. And I orchestrated that. You know,
How old were you?
Maybe 11. And I orchestrated that. And oh my gosh, she was terrified. Then we got the other one because the timing part of it, to be a ghost that she thought she killed. Oh my God, I just thought about that. That was horrible.
I wonder if she's still traumatized.
Probably.
To
Oh
this
my
day.
God. Oh.
But
what was the question?
Oh, your best did I already? No,
Yeah,
I asked
best-
you the best memory. Oh, perfect day.
Perfect day.
How would you describe a perfect day when you were young?
Oh man, taking one of my dogs, probably my dog Topper at the time, a little Cocker Spaniel, and going for a walk in the backwoods.
Yeah.
We weren't watched back then. You didn't have to be watched. You just knew you stayed away from the ponds.
I know, that's another thing. You scared the life out of us about ponds when we lived on 249 in that house.
Oh yeah, ponds back there.
There's ponds back there, and it's all quicksand, and if you step near the end, it's going to suck you in, and you're going to drown.
Yeah.
So we were terrified. I don't think we ever went behind the house ever again.
Didn't need to go. Didn't need to go near there. You only get one shot at it. I don't want to lose you guys. Have to give you the consequences, you know.
Right. Like
You might not
death.
have been. Well, you might not have been as lucky as I was.
No,
you
when
know?
we were young,
I
yeah.
escaped death plenty of times
I
as
was
a kid.
like 6 or 7. It would be like letting Katie go in the back with ponds. I'd never let her do it. Okay, what did you think your life would be like when you were older?
Oh, you know what? As a child, I wanted to save the world. I would pray to Jesus and say, give me your powers and let me save the world, and I'll heal people, make them better. And as I became older, I realized I don't want none of that stuff.
It's too much
Too much responsibility. just I'll take care of whatever is near me, and that's it. Anything else, forget about. I have no control over it.
That's funny. Okay.
So being a child, I thought I was considering a priesthood at one time,
No way.
Yeah.
Thank God, because
Oh.
how long do you think that would have lasted?
No.
You
Puberty
never-
came,
I
forgot
know.
about it. There was too much urge there.
Okay, how has being a parent changed you? You said a little bit of that already.
Yes. It does change you forever. Best Marty and his wife. I was talking to them once, Marty Castle,
Right.
and they were contemplating having a child, and they're in their 40s. And I says, you gotta. He goes, oh, I don't know. We're fixed in our ways. We don't want to share. I go, that'll all go away. I told him, all that goes away when you have a child in your life. It's just, they become the most important thing in your life. They do. That's why I keep saying, I'm not going to give you guys any more money, but what do I do?
I know, you give us money.
Bail you out. But how's that question again? How?
I don't remember. Why the hell you make me skip around? Oh, how has being a parent changed you?
Yeah, it just does, and it changes you for the better. Yes, I worry about you guys all the time, but it's a nice worry. It's like you were saying when your kids are going down to see Grandma
My
Mo.
mother, yeah.
And them being away from you, it's like
Oh, I hate it.
I might say, my saying, I can only talk to 2 of you 5 kids a day, and I don't answer the phone after that. No, it's I do need.
That's your wish.
That's my wish. Yeah, but I do. I couldn't go without. I even called Margaret the other day, and I thought it was only 15 minutes. I'm feeling guilty. About an hour later, I looked at my cell phone. It was an hour. I had talked to her.
You talked to baby Margaret for an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Think about what that meant to her. What are your dreams for your children?
Oh my God! I was just thinking about that today. I wish you guys could skip all those mistakes that I made, and that's a dream. It is,
I know.
but you guys,
I think that with
you
my
guys,
own children.
you guys got to go through it all. You're gonna make. That's what I've been telling myself. You're gonna make the same mistakes. 30 is not a year of accomplishment. 40 becomes more accomplished. 50, you're almost accomplished, and I think by 60 you'll feel accomplished.
Good. I'm glad to hear you say that because at 32 I feel so underaccomplished.
Yeah. It just comes with age. Yeah, it does. It does. And I wouldn't have been able to tell you that unless I was in my 50s. I thought I was. Oh, when I was 30, I put the sauce on the market, and I thought I knew everything about the world. I had it by the horns. No, I never even had a grip on it.
I know.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, wow, when Dad was my age, he was driving store to store, putting the sauce on the market, and I'm trying to find 10 kids to work with there.
Well, but you know what? That's what this other project that we're hoping to expand into. It's like all of a sudden, it's just that gut feeling. This is right. This is the right thing to do, and who knows if the timing's right now because of the state economy, but it is the right thing to do. Even if we don't get into it this year or another year,
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt us.
What the hell?
Yeah.
They have this question, and I printed it out just because I thought it was funny. It says, do you remember when your last child left home for good? But you can't really get rid of any of your damn kids.
Well, no. Well, Margaret, because Margaret's lived more than, I don't want to say the step life of adulthood. Went through high school, college,
So more
job.
the normal way it's supposed to be done.
Yes, that kind of progression. And when she came home from South Carolina, I told her, you got 3 months.
3 months and you're out.
And you're out because you need to get out there in life and attack it. You're not going to find her career choice in Buffalo, New York.
No, not unless she wants to work at the zoo.
Yeah, and that's the only choice.
Right. Do you have any favorite stories about your kids? Try to keep it to one because I know there have to be hundreds.
Favorite story of kids. Margaret coming home from her job at the cow farm. The first day at work, she watched the birthing of a cow and how they did it. They had this cable thing with hook it up to the cow's feet and pull it out of the mother. And the second day on the job, there's nobody around. The milker can't shut down the milking assembly line because these cows are all lined up. And she has to pull. She didn't watch close enough to use the mechanical method. She had to physically pull the calf out of the cow, and then it was a stillborn, and she tried to resuscitate it, and it was dead. And she's got this. She's telling me about all this afterbirth and fluid all over her, and I'm just looking at her with my jaw open. Margaret, you were capable of doing this. How? I mean, the one that took
I
her
know.
senior year in high school, she only spent a half a day, and she slept the other half a day at home.
Margaret, is your engine cranking over?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, how did you? I didn't know she was built of that.
That's a Chiavetta by birth. You just reach in there, talk about grabbing the bull by the horns, man.
Grab the
And
cow
just
by the
do
ass.
it. Yeah.
And she pulled the calf out on her own.
I know.
And it's still, she cleared the nose rather, and breathed into it. I'm trying, oh my God, where was this coming from?
I know. Could you picture Beth trying to do that?
Oh no.
I'm not gonna touch it. Okay, now questions about work. Do you like your job?
Not as good as, I don't think as well as I would have my career choice. My career choice was environmental or
Be
forestry.
a forest ranger.
Yeah.
You still think you would have liked that better?
Yes.
I know you probably would have been tier 1. You'd be retired
I
by
would be
now.
retired by now, probably making about $80,000 a year retired,
Yeah,
I would have saved the world besides. I would have
I
been in a
know.
position
Think
to do
of all
it.
the animals you could have resuscitated at birth if you'd just been a forest ranger.
Yeah, yeah. Or in some kind of environmental job I wanted to
Do
be
you
in.
regret that choice, though?
Well, I wasn't a choice. It was a maneuver. Remember the day you said, I want to be a lawyer, and I asked you why, and you said, well, you always wanted me to be president of the United States, and presidents are usually lawyers. And I told you, honey, you don't have to be a lawyer. You
And
can be
then
anything.
you said you wish you
No,
told me to
not
be a
to be a
lawyer,
lawyer,
so I
yeah.
would have stayed in school.
Oh, yeah. But no, I've for most of my adult life, I've had a daydream world to pacify myself while I've been
Yeah.
working in this family business that I was guilted into. And so, am I going to change jobs now? No. Am I going to stop
hope
working
not.
hard at it? No. I mean, it's part of my routine. Is it satisfying? I don't think I'll ever be satisfied with it.
See, no, that's so strange. Because no, so do you feel like you didn't have a choice about whether or not to go into the family business?
I was guilted into it. I can remember like
By
it was
who, your
yesterday.
father?
My mother and father, sitting at the kitchen table, and the 3-ring binder was a blue book always. And I said, I'm not going to live my effing life by this Bible of yours. And I slammed the book with reservations in it. And my mom goes, we've had such great plans for you in this business. And somewhere along the way, the guidance counselor had me apply for schools that we either couldn't afford, or academically I didn't have a high enough grade average to get in. And then I find out, maybe a decade or so ago, that University of Syracuse had a state class in there. Jerry Hoisington went to it for forestry, and I thought, holy shit, they never even had me apply for that.
Yeah, you missed the boat.
Yeah.
But how strange to hear you say that, because think about how many people would hear that and be amazed.
And see me work so hard.
That you never...
But imagine if I would have put that effort into a real career choice.
But, and how strange that you see this as not a real career choice. Think about how people...
How many kids stay on the farm because of their parents?
Not a lot. But I mean...
No, that did, though, my generation.
Stayed behind with their parents,
Yeah,
you mean.
yeah.
But look at that. Do you think that people who hear you say that would... And especially to hear you say that you don't get the satisfaction out of it. I mean, you... And together with Uncle Paul and Uncle Phil, I understand it wasn't just you. You've turned that business, the Chiavetta's Catering, into a household name. How many people in Western New York have never heard of Chiavetta's? How many? And I think of what we do. Just think of what you have grown that business to be. And so I'm surprised to hear you say that you don't get satisfaction out of it. I like to walk through the warehouse when it's full of product, not like we've had a lot of those days lately where it's been full of product because we're always out of it. And I see the name on all of those boxes, stamped on all those boxes. And I don't think, oh, look, my name's on all those boxes. I always think, look what my dad's done. And you feel like you don't get the satisfaction out of it.
What I've always told you guys, I says, the product is famous, you're not.
Yeah, I know.
All it's going to do is get you directions to the bathroom in a department store.
Yeah, or maybe reservations when the restaurant's booked.
Yeah, but as we found out, it does work once in a while.
Yeah.
But look, what if I did get into forestry or conservation? That effort of mine directed in that way, you think I would have been satisfied with the world destroying itself?
No.
I remember in high school I was invited by two old people, I mean, they were ancient, to go to a conservation meeting here in the city mission, no, not city mission, um, Salvation Army.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about conservation. They were trying to protect a place in Collins, right where my uncle owned property, from flooding it. They wanted to flood it for some reason, and they had pictures of the valley where my uncle, the property he owned. And I'm just looking around and going, these people are all ancient. I don't want to be part of this. What good are they going to do? But they did stop the dam from going up, and you can still drive through the area. And but that's where I knew my interests were in protecting the planet.
Hmm.
And all I've been able to do is go back in my own woods, and I still can't learn the trees.
How ironic that as a Republican, you're so committed to saving the earth, Dad. I'm so proud that the dark side hasn't swallowed you altogether. So if you could do anything now, what would you do and why? If you could do anything, not just in your work life, anything. If there were no consequences.
If there were no consequences.
If you didn't have to make sure somebody fed the animals while you were gone, or Nani took her medication.
I was just talking to Jennifer about that. I said, somehow I have to slow down, or semi-retire sometime in my life. She was in Syracuse, and her boyfriend's father is part of this fire apparatus convention. It's all antique.
Right.
And it started off in Syracuse as a just a singular convention. Now there's episodes. There's places all over the United States, if not the world, that participate in this. And I told her, I says, I got to find time to go to things like that on a weekend where I don't feel constrained or I have to get back to work.
Yeah, when?
Yeah.
In January?
Yeah. So if I could change anything without consequences, is just take time off, and know that the place is going to be operated the way I would want it to. And we did have people around to do that, and we've just lost them this year.
Yeah. This was
It's a tough year. I have to remind myself that we lost 3 full-time guys this year, and that's why it's so difficult.
Yeah, because you're picking up a lot of the slack.
Yes. And so I'll pick up, for this year, and hopefully we can replace them.
For the record, can you describe a little bit about your business and what it is and maybe the history of it, how it got started?
In 1951 rather. Well, let's start way back. In the beginning, my parents ran a chicken slaughtering processing / business. They raised chickens, contracted with surrounding growers to grow chickens, and then they slaughtered them. And after World War II, the government needed to get people working in the South. And so they thought, well, let's raise chickens in the South because that's where grain is cheap. The temperature's more consistent. It's not cold. Your chickens aren't going to be burning up calories trying to keep themselves warm up north. And so the business was switching to the South for raising poultry and along the East Coast. So my parents saw the writing on the wall, and at the time there was a Dr. Roberts in Cornell University that developed the method of cooking plus the Cornell recipe for barbecuing chicken with vinegar, and actually I think it was white vinegar and lemon juice
and
some
egg
and egg white actually, I believe, and salt, pepper, poultry seasoning. So the Farm and Home Center that my parents belonged to in East Aurora had a picnic in the summer of 1951, the year before I was born. And they made the equipment and barbecued it that way. Well, my father, amongst 3 other gentlemen, started the business the following year, each individually in their own neighborhood. Somebody in Jamestown, my father in Brant, another guy in East Aurora, and another one up in Niagara County. And we persevered, and except I think in Jamestown, that family still carries on the same tradition of barbecuing this way that Dr. Roberts developed. And so what it is a church, a fire department, Boy Scouts, some nonprofit organization will contact us and want us to barbecue our chicken at their location. They'll assemble it into a meal and then sell it to the public to raise money for its organization.
But it's important to point out that we don't still have the Cornell recipe.
Oh, right. We have my
Yes.
father's version of the recipe. Although other people say that it was their father's recipe that my father stole, and I just tell them, if you snooze, you lose. Yeah. So, regardless of how the recipe came to be used, and now our business. When I was 30 years old. And by the way, for the record, I wanted to put the sauce on the market when I was 17, but held back by my father until I was 30. I snuck into the facility. Uncle Paul and I bottled the first cases of sauce, and I went out and peddled them the next day.
Because Papa, your father, thought that if people could get our sauce at the store, it would put us out of business.
Right. So we've grown from doing weddings. I think the first wedding we did was in the early 50s, where it was half a chicken, lasagna, Italian sausage, like 6 times the amount of food and grease that we put on a buffet now. So what we are catering to Western New Yorkers, and Chiavetta's barbecue chicken is as well known to Western New York as chicken wings is known to Western New York.
Yeah, and also, so you put the sauce on the market how many years ago?
When I was 30.
25 years
26
ago, give
years
or
ago?
take.
Yeah, 25, yeah.
And so it's grown from, and I remember you telling me, tell me the story about the first time you...
Cried?
Yes, the first time you walked into a store to try and sell
no,
barbecue sauce.
the amazing thing that happened the first times I went out there is the help and the warmth of the reception of these store owners, these grocery store owners. They weren't the big franchises now; they're they're individually owned stores, and how they received the product, put it on the shelf. Especially other Italians helping another Italian, it was unbelievable. I remember this guy in Bell's store in Hamburg. Oh man, he was all out about helping me, him and his son, and that's where I learned to help other people too. It was different. It wasn't a world described as my father described it to me. It was a much warmer place. And but then I'm probably the second or third year I'm peddling sauce, and I hit a store manager, on I don't know if it was a welfare check day or what, but the place is mobbed. He's bagging groceries, and I go to make a pitch to him, and he said he barked off at me and said, get out of here. What do you think? I don't have time for you. And
Get the hell out of my store.
I went into the car and cried, and I was ready to stop right there.
And now look at that guy. If he's still alive, I bet he's sorry, because you went from peddling it in the car to...
He did. No, he came. He did buy, and I sold him the following week. Probably it was probably the following week. I sold it to him, put it on the shelf. Came back the next week. He says, "Oh my God, I'm never going to run out of this stuff again. I had somebody standing in the middle of my checkout aisle, screaming at the top of their lungs, 'What are you doing? You had the best product ever, and you're out of it.'" And the customers ranting and raving about it, as we've seen with what happens with Walmarts.
And now it's the #1 selling barbecue marinade in Western New York
Yes,
State.
it is.
You should be so proud of yourself. Do you have any favorite stories from your work life?
The time there's probably more, and some I can't tell. There's two. One was we're on Fantasy Island on Grand Island, and we're feeding probably Fisher-Price toys, about 5,000 people. And this big dark cloud comes over. It's just a lone dark cloud comes over, hits us really hard, pulls the stakes out of the ground of this huge tent we're serving under. All the girls that were working for us go to these ropes and hold on to them to hold the tent in place. And here they are bouncing up and down on the ground. It was instant. It was like it all took place in about 15, 20 seconds. It was over with before it even started. But the courage of them, just instinctively to save the tent.
And we still have lots of those kinds of girls. Those are the ones we want to hire, not the ones who are getting their nails dirty washing dishes.
Yeah.
Did you do that job at Fantasy Island every year?
We did them for quite a few years.
I remember Ma telling me she was pregnant with one of us.
Yes, and she had to bring something over.
Yeah, and hand it to you over a fence.
Yes.
Didn't she? I think she delivered in the next couple of days.
Well, and I was on another, she delivered, and then I was up all night and still went right back to work. It had to have been, wait a minute, maybe Beth then.
I think it was.
Because Nanny Gill would have taken care of you. Yeah.
Okay, I have to narrow it down a little bit. How would you like to be remembered?
Not like Beth. We're going to have the troop of jazz
Where
players
Beth-
and a wagon be
and
pulling the corpse.
Yeah, Beth said, my sister, if people don't pull over when they drive by the cemetery to look at my monument, it's too small.
You know, I was a friend of mine who was in the area. He wanted to leave a legacy behind at the fire department, so he wanted me to try to work with him to get our retirement system. And I was just like totally just baffled by it. Why a legacy? What do you have to be remembered about? And I try to. I don't. How do I say? I'm not wired to feel appreciation. I finally put up all those awards from the fire department on my wall in the office
This year.
to look at them and go, Jesus, Pete, don't you realize there's nobody else with double Fireman of the Year awards out there? Don't you realize that you're appreciated?
You are, Dad. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because I think when people think of you, Peter Chiavetta, they think of the guy who runs the chicken business, and then you've got your buddies in the fire department. But look at how big a part of your life that business has been, and look at what a short time we've spent talking about it. You know, people don't understand just what kind of person you are. And I made notes on a couple of examples of things that you do. Like when my cousin Kathleen moved from Chicago to Boston, and you just up and got a truck and you drove from Buffalo to Chicago and then back to Boston, and that's not the only relative you've done. Or like when I asked you to sharpen the blade on my lawnmower and instead you bought a new one, and not only did you buy it, but you put it together, gassed it up, and mowed part of my lawn for me. Or all the time that you spend taking care of Nani and Uncle Paul. Or one of my favorites is when you drove by I think it was the Ronaldos, the couple in their 70s, by the side of the road, and he's on a ladder in the bed of his pickup trying to saw down a tree limb or whatever, and his wife, also in her 70s, is holding on to him, and you stopped and did that for them. And I just, you know, and I tell my kids this too, and I want you to know that you're such an example to me, and you should be to the rest of your children too, but especially to me, of how you should live your life. There's a phrase in the Bible that says, much is expected of those to whom much is given. And I think that you've been given a lot in your life, but I think that you give back tenfold. And every day of your life, at least as long as I've been knowledgeable of what it's like to be an adult, every day of your life is spent in some part doing something for others. And I think that that's such a wonderful example. And I hope that I can strive to be half that much, and that my children after me will.
Oh, you will. You do now, honey.
Will learn. I try.